Hi everyone, I'm Krista Seiden.
And I'm Louis Gray.
Welcome to episode 12 of Measure Matters. In this episode, I'm really excited that we're going to talk to you about some of the coolest data studio reports that we have seen out in market. So all of this coming directly from you. But before we get there, let's go ahead and dive in and look at our agenda. So as always, we'll cover what we covered last time in a quick overview. What's new in analytics in the industry and our product, what's the word on the street, what are you guys telling us, and then finally our big topic, Data Studio Report Showcase. So previously on Measure Matters, we talked all about Google Optimize. We went deep and I took you through a walkthrough of the product, showed you how to create your first test, how to use the visual editor, launch it, understand results. It was a really cool way to really showcase that product, so I was really excited for that. We also talked about cross-domain GTM linking, linking Google Optimize to Google Ads, as well as that live demo. So if you missed that episode, go ahead and follow that link and check it out after you finish this one.
And the live demo, this is something that you really can't replace with a bunch of slides or looking at the web. You really need to take a look at the product, see how Krista went through it, and understand exactly how you can do this on the fly.
So what's new? Well, you may or may not have noticed that we made a little bit of an update to our navigation in the Google Analytics UI. As you'll see in the left-hand nav, it's now slightly, I would say, more rounded in appearance. So we've kind of changed around some of this menu selection, made it a little bit more friendly to read and to be able to navigate through. So we hope that you like that new change.
And what I've seen from people online, they're really liking the fact that it highlights the hierarchy a little bit better, like where you are in the navigation, and it even works better on tablets.
Mm-hmm. All right, so a lot of people very excited about this one. We released chart-specific calculated fields in Data Studio. So now all of the things that you love about calculated fields you can bring to individual charts, and you can actually create calculated fields on blended data. So this is a huge enhancement that I know we had a lot of feedback on Twitter, people very excited. I've heard from our partners that they've been very excited about this one. So we're happy to bring this to you, and you can get more information at the link. Next, we have a new video series with one of our fellow advocates, Minaz Kazi. He is a developer advocate who works on Data Studio, and he is launching a new series to talk about Data Studio, community connectors, and how to build those connectors and really get the most out of that platform. He's planning new episodes every 1 to 2 weeks, so follow that link to learn more.
And Minaz has done this in cooperation with the Google Cloud Platform team. You know, as you know, Data Studio is not just about Google Analytics, and we're going to talk more about Data Studio later in the show, obviously. But Minaz has really found a way to tap into the cloud and the web in general, working with partners, creating tools, and making it even easier for you to showcase interesting visualizations.
Yep. And finally, a new mini course coming from our team on Google Tag Manager. So I partnered up with Scott Herman, who is a PM on Google Tag Manager, and together we put together this mini course that shows you how to create your first account in Container, install that on your page, create your first tag, your link to Google Ads and tags there with conversion linker, as well as much more. And it's a series that we hope to add to in the future. So definitely check this out. Follow the link to get to the playlist and stay tuned for even more updates coming there.
And that brings us to word on the street. And we're talking a lot today about your comments and your inputs. But one thing I really enjoy is really the discussion and the community around our platform. Mm-hmm. And one of the best pieces I saw was with TechBytes. They interviewed David Booth, who is the co-founder of Cardinal Path, which is one of the largest GMP partners out there. And he was really effusive in talking about the benefits of the Google Marketing Platform integrated with CRM solutions such as Salesforce.com. Now, obviously, if you've been watching each of our episodes, we've talked a lot about Salesforce in the past, and it's good to see David and our team externally working on our behalf and on yours to really understand how all those pieces work together. And he really thought it's a really valuable piece for salespeople and marketers to get access to that data in one place where they've previously not been able to do so. We also look at Google Optimize, CRO made easy, is conversion rate optimization and really understanding how you can leverage Optimize and start running those experiments to boost growth. John Muski from Ladder.io had a really helpful explanatory piece which got a lot of visibility, and we're excited to see that this was made available also.
And this is probably a great additional reading to watching our episode last time on Google Optimize to really help you get to that next level with your practice.
And what I liked about this piece is he talked not just about optimizing websites, this is kind of where we talk a lot, but he did say that you can optimize specific funnels. And so when you take a look at all the pieces of your inbound and how they interact with your site, Optimize will give you those clues as to what's working on the way there and when they arrive.
Yep.
And that brings us to the big topic. I've been excited about this, putting some content together and really soliciting those of you in the community who work on Data Studio. When I think about Data Studio, the idea is taking complex data, which traditionally has always been in something like a Google Sheet or an Excel spreadsheet, or even print it out, and making it
different platforms even.
Absolutely, different platforms and different ways to get to it, and have it in a beautiful, easily digestible and consumable and flexible way. Right, and so we're going to talk about that. If we go to the next slide, this is a quick screen grab from our Data Studio gallery, and we're going to have a link to the gallery in a second. But when you take a look, you'll see these are all bright colored. You've got graphs, you've got pie charts, you've got bar charts, you've got all sorts of different ways to cut the data. And so the reason I show this is not to say cool, pretty colors, but to say, look what you can do. And so the hope with this portion of our show is to inspire you to take another look at your data and another way to break that up.
And I also want to say thank you to everyone who contributed. I know on the end of the last episode, we put out the call on Twitter to share your favorite Data Studio dashboards with us. And we got a lot of responses, and I think it's really, really awesome to be able to see the breadth and depth of how Data Studio is being used across so many different businesses and industries and all of the various types of reports that we got back. So thank you very much for sharing those with us, and we're really excited to now turn that around and share it back with all of you.
Absolutely, and let's go to the next slide. So one thing we saw was we had so many submissions, there's no way that we could have contained them all. I think some people submitted 8, 10, 12. They were asked publicly on Twitter, what do you do, just make visualizations all day?
We're looking at you, Marc.
Marc, you know who we're talking about. But this is just great to see. And so one thing we've done with the report gallery is we've selected some really top ones from the community as well as Google specifically. We've released from the Google team ways to cut your display ads data, video data, YouTube analytics, Google Analytics,
GA for Firebase,
and e-commerce specifically. And so when you get to this Data Studio gallery, you can take a look and go specifically to marketing templates and pull those together, but also the community connectors and get a good idea for what people are doing out on the web. So let's get to it. Now, I showed this one for fun. This is a real Data Studio report that I made for Measure Matters. Now, I know all of you are thinking about Inception's memes and responding back on Twitter, but I want to show you this is what we actually use. So it's not just asking you to use our product. This is how we measure ourselves. And so really simply, even someone like me was able to jump into the YouTube Analytics platform and pull that through Data Studio, and we can say week over week, month over month, just how our shows are doing on YouTube and what's getting good engagement. And so when Krista and I talk about our next show, we say, well, what's working? What did the audience like? And maybe stop doing some things and start doing other pieces.
I'm kind of disappointed to see that my favorite topic is near the bottom of this list, though.
Measurement for growth?
Yeah.
I can look at the numbers. We can talk about those. But over time, they all go up. Now, you guys should watch that one if you haven't seen it. All right, next. So first and foremost, let's talk about some of the key pieces of the Data Studio Gallery which help you specifically in your marketing and analytics work. We have the fun at the end, but let's talk about work. The first of which came from the webanalyticssetup.com team, which is Google Analytics for copywriters. What they did was they took what would be essentially an internal Google Analytics report back in the old days and made it public and then optimized it for those people who create content and need to measure how that content is doing. And so what I was able to do is simply point it at any of the properties that I have access to, and in this case, we always use the Google Analytics Merchandise Store, or the Google Merchandise Store, to pull the data through and show how we're doing year over year, and it specifically shows where users are coming from, what are the landing pages, and what they do when they got there. And so I really like this straight to the point, here's a whole lot of data and one way to easily consume it.
Yep, very important business metrics, especially for people in content and copywriting. So I think this is a really great example for that.
Absolutely, and one of the things you can notice at the top is you have all these pull-down menus, because one of the things about Data Studio is when you share it, the best thing you can do is customize it. And so you can really run anything you want against this medium or source or device type, etc. Next. Paid channel mix from SuperMetrics. SuperMetrics has really led the way in having a lot of these intelligent community connectors that are out there. You can plug into public data on Twitter and Facebook and have a paid channel mix specifically. So you can take a look at all those paid channel properties where you might be spending money for advertising and consolidate it all in one place. And so if you're someone who does have to write a bunch of checks and figure out exactly how that money is being utilized through analytics and our Google Ads platform, etc., you can pull that through using SuperMetrics and visualize it all in Data Studio.
And the thing I really like about this one is often when it comes to paid, there are multiple people who are running paid accounts, especially in large organizations. You might have one team that runs display and another that runs, Google search or whatever that might be. And so this is a great way to pull all of that data into one place and surface it to the same stakeholders within your organization. Easily share those insights across the business to be able to connect a lot of potentially disparate teams towards the same goal.
And this is something we talk about a lot, is it's not just being able to create the dashboard, but to share it and let the people who make decisions have more information right away. So let's go to the next one. WholeWhale has done really great work. I really enjoy a lot of their pieces. Whenever they post, I actually give it a read and see if it's something we want to amplify. But they made a web data template for nonprofits. And we understand that if you're a nonprofit, you've got other stuff to do than create fancy Data Studio templates. And so why not use the ones that they've already built? They did a very good job at showing exactly what's going on with your website, when are users most active, where do they come from, and really kind of the basics that all of us watching this show know about. But for those who really need to work on the bottom line and go out and find new charities or find new efforts for their business, they can really just leverage WholeWhale and get started. Hurst. Lee really surprised us with a lot of really creative items this whole week. It's a lot of fun. But I wanted to focus specifically on his small business site troubleshooter. This is super interesting to me because it's not just charts. In fact, if you take a look at his content, he says, look, if you have more than one domain listed, you probably have issues. Now I'm going to feel like he's talking to me, because in this case, I've got 4 domains going on with the Global Merchandise Store. But he can take a look and say, here's what you should see, and if it's different, here's what changes you need to make. That's very cool. That's like going out and getting a free consultant to sit next to you as you run your report. So thank you to Lee for that. That's why he's called helpful. And we're just really excited to see this type of thing roll out. So if you're not really sure what's going on with your Google Analytics or you want to take it a step further, just run it against this business site troubleshooter and see what kind of changes you can make.
Yeah, I really like this. It's essentially a free diagnostic tool that Lee is giving to us here. And one of the things that I like most about it is what you pointed out. Not only is it charts and graphs and kind of pulling those issues top of mind, but it's also a bunch of text that explains what is going on. And I think that is key, especially to people who might be a small business and not necessarily have a deep understanding of what these different things mean in analytics. So thank you very much, Lee.
Absolutely. And we know big blocks of text don't usually work very well for slides, but it really helps when you need answers. And so it's good to kind of slowly go through it and understand what's going on with your site. So now let's talk about some real showcases. This is a good example. Julie Sabor, who works for a regional hotel here in the United States, this is what she's worked on for her company to actually know exactly what the lead times look like for hotel bookings for her company. And she was able very kindly to share this with us. You can see how many room nights are booked ahead, what the revenue is expected to look like, what the average cost per room looks like. And so this is really showing how traditionally maybe you would have put this in something like Excel or even Oracle or some really complicated database. But instead, she's able to put the data in a public source that she can pull into Data Studio and share that out. And you can see how things are doing by date and over time. And that was really excellent that she was able to share that with us.
As a frequent traveler, I find this fascinating. And I am definitely going to be going to dig in to this dashboard because I think the hotel industry in general has always fascinated me with the business model. I know I often am booking and canceling rooms regularly and last minute stays and all these different things. And that has a real impact on the business. And I love that we have this one source that brings a lot of that together to give the business a snapshot here.
And if you're someone who, right when I said the word hotel, you tuned out, Think of this as e-commerce, right? So this is simply an e-commerce site. This is activity that they pull through. And think about your own business. What is it that you measure regularly and report on? It could go into Data Studio. So thank you, Julie, for putting this together.
What does that say about me that I perked up when I heard hotel?
You're a traveler, and we have more travel slides coming up, I promise. Speaking of which, like BART, this is smaller, maybe less exciting for you. You don't get a lot of frequent flyer miles on BART.
I don't, but I take it. It's the Bay Area Rapid Transit. It's our system of getting around the Bay here in California.
Sure. And so one thing that they've done, this is from ClickInsight, and ClickInsight has put together a lot of kind of one-stop shop Data Studio templates. And this is a really interesting one where you can select what station you're coming from and where you want to go. In real time, it pulls from the BART API and shows you what platform your train's going to be on and how many minutes. Mm-hmm. Well, that's easy. I mean, if you work right next to a BART stop, you can basically pull this up and say, all right, it's got 8 minutes. I can finish this one last thing and go head out. Or find out what's coming up. And so I thought that was really valuable. And so a lot of these that we're going to showcase are kind of one-offs that you can say, wow, I didn't know you could do that.
I want this as an app on my phone because I can't tell you how many times I've looked up on Google Maps what the times were for the BART and they're wrong because they're not coming directly.
So I'll tell you what you should do. You should take this Data Studio report and save it as a web shortcut on your phone. And with one click, it'll show up. It's no coincidence that the display for this is very narrow for someone like you who's on the go, because most of the time you're not going to have your 20+ inch monitor looking at this, but it's going to be on that 4 to 6 inch screen.
Yep.
Next, Marc Soares. Now, Marc, it's really interesting because when I came up with the idea for the Data Studio promotions, and I asked internally what kind of showcases I should do, they said just use Marc's. And that wasn't enough. So we're happy to showcase Marc. You've got a lot of great ones. He does something called Makeover Monday, and so every week he has a really exciting approach to showing a new gallery. This one I like from the Winter Olympic Games. It shows all-time medal results. And now the reason I like this is because, again, this is a question you might be curious about, but it has a lot of data in one place, and boom, you get the answer. And so really quickly you can just browse it and say, oh, it looks like Germany has the most all-time medal results. And just at a glance, I can know kind of what percentage are gold, silver, or bronze. And I can look and say, okay, the US is 4th, and we've gotten more recently. And you can know that immediately just by looking at this Data Studio report. And so I like that in the case where typically you might be looking at a table and trying to do the counts and just manually looking at the numbers. Here, this just automatically, you know what's going on.
And what I love about this one is I remember seeing this when it came out during the Winter Olympics, and I felt like I could immediately follow data that was actually it was very relative to what was going on and interesting and all there for me in a nice Data Studio dashboard to keep me updated on who was winning in the Olympics.
Right, and we've even gotten more, there's more they haven't shown you. We've got the World Cup report is also in our Data Studio gallery. We've got some very specific ones. I think it was Ben Collins or Marc, I apologize. One of them did a cut on baseball wins. Wins per year, and so I'm looking at this going, holy cow, the A's did really well in the second half of the year. But there's a lot of interesting data that you can do with sports, and so that really perked me up as opposed to hotels. So next, Marc again, I have a couple of his in a row here. This is U.S. household income distribution by state. Now Marc is really clever. This looks like the United States. He took each one of the states and has the bar chart for each one of those states, and then you even have Hawaii on, the Southwest, and you have Alaska in the Northwest, and so that was very cool. And so you really can kind of mouse over if you look at the live Data Studio report and see exactly what the income distribution is like per state just by going over it and getting an understanding of where that is relatively. So I thought this was a cool way to take it.
Puerto Rico down on the bottom right.
This is like, you're gonna make me squint. Puerto Rico is still not a state.
But it is Puerto Rico.
It's Puerto Rico, but it's still not a state. We're going to ask for edits. Okay, let's go next. One more from Marc, which is the Big Mac Index. And you say, well, what are you talking about here? So this is
talking about burgers.
Talking about burgers. So one interesting thing about this is you kind of look at the price of a Big Mac over time by country. And that sounds bizarre, but given the widespread availability of Big Macs in this world, you can get a good understanding of currency fluctuation, right? Or how much maybe beef is going up or coming down based on where you are. And so this is kind of that standard. You can get this product and it's the same everywhere. Therefore, it's pretty good for measuring how currency fluctuates over time.
That is fascinating in so many ways. that I've never thought about, but I really like that.
And what else are you going to use? What else is it that
I
people
was
would
just
buy
thinking,
everywhere?
like, what are other things that I could do? You know, I not on a Data Studio dashboard, but I was listening to a podcast about crazy inflation, and they were talking about the calorie index. And how they would relate inflation to how many calories you could buy with $1 or $100 or something. So Marc, challenge out to you. Let's see the calorie index in here.
We could talk about that for half an hour. Let's move on. This one I really like from Kiyo Wiesnoski, which is her analytics report. We've talked about this before because I remember Kiyo was so stoked when Data Studio first came out. She said, "I can now do my charts in pink." And you might say, well, yeah, great, it's a color. But what we're doing is putting the availability and flexibility into the user's hands. They can do whatever they want. And so you can be someone like Marc who wants to recreate the United States in a bunch of bar charts, or you can just make your content pleasant. You know, if you have to look at analytics reports, why not pink? And so I really thought Kiyo had a lot of fun here. And one report of hers that I did not share because it is not always safe for work is she broke apart Eminem's Kamikaze diss track and tried to show you exactly who he was trying to diss per line. I almost put it in here and realized I can't use that language on this show.
It is hilarious, though. Highly recommend you checking it out. I think it's in the Twitter thread for...
I always say Google it. If you Google it, you'll find it. All right, so good job, Kiyo. Josh Cottrell, speaking of colors, this is bold. This is the San Francisco airport passenger data. And
so
again,
this is another one that I got really excited about.
Travel, right? Before the show, Krista's like, hold on. And I think we started late because of that. But, you know, we look at BART, we look at SFO passenger data. And this is another good way to just understand exactly what's going on with a very busy airport. You know, where are they coming from? Overwhelmingly from the United States, which makes sense. And then beyond that, you have Asia, Europe, Canada, Mexico, etc. What's the international passenger count? What's the domestic passenger count? And what are the top airlines? And so if you apply this type of data to a different airport, which is a different airline hub, you're going to have different data. I would assume that Southwest is higher in Phoenix, for example, or Delta in Salt Lake. I don't have them all memorized. You probably do.
I mean, SFO is my home airport, so I find this data.
Yeah, so you could probably take a look and see how much of an impact you personally had to this chart.
I think a significant number of the United Airlines flights are probably mine.
Probably. Next one, Ben Collins. Now, this one actually changed last night. I love to say that this data is already old. So this is women of the House of Representatives organized by party, by year, over the last 100 years. And it's really interesting to see, obviously there's a whole lot of background into this. You know, why was it so low before? Why are things changing? And why are women in the Democratic Party rising at such a clip in comparison to the women in the Republican Party? Very interesting. Different show, different time.
I think I saw a tweet from Avinash this morning who was pulling some data on women in the House, and I believe he said that we've now got 100 women in the House, which is amazing. So I can't wait to see this updated.
And that's out of like 435, I think. So it's not 50% yet, it's not 52%, but it's more than it used to be, and the trajectory is correct.
Yeah.
So Ben, please update this chart. Thank you. Okay, and one more from Ben. I had to finish this for all you millennials. This is the avocado prices based on the region of origin. This is another one of those interesting things where you say, I never even thought of that. You know, why are you even looking at this, Ben? What's wrong with you?
Is this origin of the avocado or where people are eating them? Because I can tell you for sure, avocados are ridiculously expensive in San Francisco because we eat a lot of avocado toast.
Everything's expensive in San Francisco. But what this specifically is talking about is how much does the price of avocado change based on where it comes from, hence the origin.
Got it.
And so if you take a look at where it came from, you know, is it going to cost a certain amount based on whether it's from Roanoke or Chicago or different places that these are, I was going to say manufactured, but they're grown that way. And so he has this availability to get the chart, and they actually have a API that can tap into the Avocado Board API.
I just noticed that data source. I think in general, I love the fact that we are highlighting so many dashboards, and there are so many more out there that are coming from public data sets.
Right.
Some as fun as the Haas avocado.
Yeah, we've got Big Macs, we've got avocados, we've got your BART ride. And so what I want to show with this series is you can do whatever you want with Data Studio. One of the best pieces, and you highlighted it, is public data. And so I would love it, and this is kind of like a call to action, is if we could pull in Data Studio reports that show weather trajectory or global warming or acreage burned by fires, things that are changing our world as we know it, and find a way to show that in Data Studio that you can present and make change. Because you can look at this type of information and there's a story now where before it was just a set of numbers. And some people grok pictures a lot better than they grok numbers, which is sad for those of us in analytics. But
do you want to explain what grok means for those who don't know?
Grok is to take in and understand, right? So they understand it right away. So let's go to the next slide. This is kind of our wrap. I thought this was a lot of fun. It was really my objective to showcase the work that you're already doing. If you have created a really excellent Data Studio report and we didn't highlight it, don't despair. There will be other shows. So please, if you saw something on this event that you really liked, go ahead and make your own data, make your own report, share it with us. Krista and I are always listening on Twitter to the Measure Matters handle on Google Analytics as well. You do know how to find us on Twitter. It's Krista Seiden and Lewis Gray. So thank you so much for tuning in for this edition of Measure Matters. You can take a look at our playlist so you haven't missed any at tinyurl.com/Measure Matters, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.